When we think of the Craftsman design movement, it seems like a really American thing, but it actually has its origins in the arts and crafts movement, which itself comes from the United Kingdom in the 19th century. The arts and crafts movement was a direct response to the onset of the Industrial Revolution and a reaction to mass production. In this video, you'll learn the origins of the arts and crafts movement, how it became the Craftsman movement, as well as design features and hallmarks. We'll also go over how to mix and match the Craftsman style with other interior decor styles. The arts and crafts movement can be traced back to the Great Exhibition in London in 1851. At that point, an overly ornamental style had taken over in architecture and in furniture. British architect Owen Jones remarked that the architect, the upholsterer, the paper stainer, the weaver, the calico printer, and the potter produced novelty without beauty, or beauty without intelligence. He and other architects, builders, writers, thinkers, and artisans set about trying to change this status quo of an overly ornamental style, as well as the externalities created by the Industrial Revolution and mass production. Mass production changed the fabric of British life and culture. It also changed the quality of life for many people who now had to work long hours in difficult working conditions. It also changed the nature of goods themselves, and the quality oftentimes went down. The arts and crafts movement sought to create a return to craftsmanship and to change both the aesthetic of goods being made as well as the decline in quality of life. The leader of this movement, or at least the figurehead of the arts and crafts movement, was a man named William Morris. Morris is best known today for his work as a textile designer. He was also a writer and a thinker, and he wanted to create a return to the guild apprenticeship sort of model that was around during the Middle Ages. Morris believed that the division of labor in mass production was making work less fulfilling for craftsmen because it took the creativity out of their process, and it divvied up the process too. Instead of one person making one thing from start to finish, they each worked on a different part of the process, which made people feel disconnected from the products they were making. Morris wrote, "Because craftsmen took pleasure in their work, the Middle Ages was a period of greatness in the art of the common people. The treasures in our museums now are only the common utensils used in households of that age, when hundreds of medieval churches, each one a masterpiece, were built by unsophisticated peasants." Now, there's no doubt that William Morris and his contemporaries idealized what working life was like during the Middle Ages, but it's not hard to see why the idea of guilds and apprentices and being involved in the process from start to finish made for an appealing contrast with the division of labor created by the Industrial Revolution. The American arts and crafts movement, which came to be called Craftsman, was closely linked to the British arts and crafts movement. It was influenced by William Morris, as well as other architects and designers like Charles Robert Ashby, who toured the United States. There were also journals and newspapers that disseminated these ideals, and the Craftsman movement in the United States wasn't regionally specific. It showed up in multiple places, in Chicago, in New York, in Minneapolis, and in Boston around the turn of the century, roughly the year 1897. One thing you might not know about the arts and crafts movement is that it allowed women to learn handicrafts and earn wages for doing this work at a time when there were very few respectable jobs for young women. Skills that women learned in the Craftsman movement included things like pottery, metalworking, and jewelry making. Now that we know more about the history of the Craftsman movement, how it came to the US, we can talk about its principles and design hallmarks. The first principle is that form and function are of equal importance. This is in contrast to some other types of design, like the shakers, which we covered before. For the shakers, function of an object was more important than its form. The Craftsman movement seeks to value each about the same. The second principle is dedication to using real materials. Craftsman style homes make extensive use of substances like real wood, real stone, brick masonry, and glass. The third principle, as you might anticipate, is to use and incorporate things that are made by hand. This includes woodworking for furniture, doors, and cabinets, as well as masonry and metallurgy for lighting design, stained glass. Handmade things are a really critical component of this aesthetic. So what are the hallmarks of Craftsman design, or features or objects you'll see in a lot of Craftsman homes? Here are the main ones. Neutral colors, especially darker colors for walls, exposed beams, a covered front porch, low-pitched roof, wood pillars, stained glass, distinctive front doors, wood floors and trim, stone fireplaces that serve as centerpieces of the home, built-in cabinetry, brick masonry. Now you might be wondering why the Craftsman style is still so popular today. It wasn't actually super trendy in its time. It was popular for about 20 years before being eclipsed by the Art Deco movement in the 1920s. So why is it a design style that's so often referenced and returned to even today? We think it's because Craftsman style homes were designed to be functional, and this makes them feel a little bit more approachable and welcoming than stiffer, more formal designs. Take Art Deco, for instance. A lot of Art Deco design is beautiful, but it can seem delicate, or like you might not want to touch any of the stuff that's in that room. Craftsman style homes are a welcoming choice for many families. Now let's talk about how to adapt the Craftsman aesthetic and style. Don't feel like you have to have a super faithful representation of the Craftsman aesthetic, even if you're living in a genuine Craftsman style home. There are a lot of ways to update and modernize this aesthetic without losing its real essence. For instance, one of the hallmarks is really dark wood. Now, we recommend using real wood wherever possible, but if you find that it's just too dark to have a lot of walnut or cherry, for instance, you could swap out a darker wood door or a darker built-in cabinet for a lighter wood like American ash or quarter sawn white oak. That would still keep the overall feeling of the Craftsman style without sacrificing what makes it Craftsman, which is fidelity to real material. Likewise, don't feel like you have to stick to super dark wall paint colors. You can opt for lighter neutral tones like a cool white or a soft dove gray, which is still in keeping with the overall aesthetic, but updated for our preferences now, where we tend to like to maximize natural light. Now you might be wondering, how do I mix and match the Craftsman aesthetic with other design styles, and can I even do that? And the answer is yes, you can. Craftsman design is very versatile, and you can mix and match with a lot of different things. Farmhouse style is a good option because both farmhouse and Craftsman style are essentially designed with practicality in mind. Shaker or Cape Cod also works. And if you love the cottagecore aesthetic, it can be a harmonious choice as well, because Craftsman style homes have a certain something about them that's very cozy. What we wouldn't recommend is anything that's really, really contemporary looking with a lot of sharpness or angularity. Since the Craftsman style is about honoring real materials and handmade crafts, It has an essential warmth to it, that something that's really cold feeling, like an industrial aesthetic, it's just too far away from, and the contrast can be kind of jarring. That being said, there are some mid-century modern pieces that you could incorporate into a Craftsman style house that wouldn't look out of place. Now we have several Craftsman style doors available here at RealCraft, and it's also a design movement that we feel really inspired by across our design collection. We're also on a mission to eliminate the soullessness of mass production and to spearhead a return to craftsmanship. So all of our doors, whether they're Craftsman style or Shaker style or mid-century modern or really contemporary, are built by hand by craftsmen and women using real materials and traditional joinery methods, because we just think that's the best way to do things. We also just like the Craftsman aesthetic because it's so timeless and tasteful, and it's nice to lean into something classic. So there's our little guide to everything you need to know about the Craftsman design movement, from its origins in history to its hallmarks to how you can adapt it and make it your own. You can shop our Craftsman style doors at the link in our bio. And let us know what type of content you want to see next. If you liked the video, please like the video, and if you want to see more content from us, please click the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.